Hello everyone. So for today's video, I'm actually going to show two cards. This month's MFT Design Team Challenge was to use stripes. So for my first card, I am using the MFT Stripes stencil, and I originally was going to place it across my entire card front, but it's just a little bit too short to do across, like horizontally across an A2 card front, which is how I'd wanted it. So instead I put it on an angle, which is always something I kind of need to work on, is, thinking out of the box, and not everything doesn't have to be, perfectly symmetrical. So I taped it into place and decided I wanted to do everything in kind of rainbow order. So I'm just using some painter's tape to tape off different stripes so that I don't get the ink over onto the other stripes. And I started with the raspberry. If I had been planning ahead of time, and you'll see it on the next card, I would have started with my lightest color, which would have been the yellow. Because you have to be really careful when you start with a color like raspberry. It's such a strong color. It's like, well, it's like a red, and it just kind of gets into everything. But I did raspberry first, and then I did orange fizz, and then I did lemon drop, and then sour apple, blue raspberry, and grape jelly, which is like my favorite rainbow color combination. Instead of red, I like the raspberry. It's just so pretty. So once I was done sponging them all on, I just peel off the tape and the stencil. And I don't have to worry about, one, I didn't want the color to be perfectly even because I like it with stencils, how you get that kind of variation, and it just looks neat rather than just stamping something like that. And also with the MFT dye inks, they kind of smooth out as they dry anyway, so it ends up looking quite nice regardless. So once I was done with all that, I'd run it through my Big Shot using the Happy Dynamics and die cut the Happy. And then I stamped the little coordinating stamp from the Happy Everything stamp set. And my favorite thing is the Black Licorice Hybrid ink. When it comes to sentiments, if I'm wanting to stamp it in black, I always choose the hybrid, like the Black Licorice Hybrid ink. I absolutely love this ink. And then I just took a piece of copy paper and I trimmed it slightly smaller than the cardstock panel and made sure to apply a good amount of adhesive along the bottom where the Happy was. My first idea was to just inlay the sentiments, so I had die cut several from black cardstock, and I liked how that looked. I could have just left it as is with just the one. That looks really cool, but I just kind of kept going and kept playing with it, so I kept adhering more and more over it. So I had saved all the center little pieces from the first die cut, because once you pop those into place, it just finishes everything off. And then I thought about adhering the one I originally cut because I was going to discard that, and then decided to just keep adhering all of these black die cuts. And since it's a large enough die cut, I can just easily apply some Tombow Monomulti, as long as you don't squeeze too much on so it's not oozing out everywhere. But I applied the Tombow Monomulti and then just stacking them on top of each other. So I had 3 stacked there, and I liked how that looked. And then decided to still adhere the original die cut kind of over it. So it's just popped up a bit, and yet you can see it nicely. And when you turn it to the side, you can kind of see the black underneath. So it kind of gives it a fun look, and it's really easy to do. Basically, you're just stacking all these die cuts. So once I've got all those into place, I'm going to adhere this to my card front, which is just some MFT heavyweight smooth white cardstock cut to 8.5 by 5.5, and then scored at the 4 1/4 line, so it's a top folding card. And then I'm going to adhere that to my card base. I was going to pop this up on foam tape, but decided just to adhere it flat. This is a card that'd be so much easier to like just pop in the mail, because even with the die cut being stacked up, it's not 2-dimensional. And then to finish off the inside, I took the large Happy stamp from the Happy Everything set, and I'm just inking it up with all the same ink pads, just using the very edge of the ink pad so that I can ink it up with all the different colors. And this time I started with the yellow, and then the green, the blue, the grape jelly, and then I'll do the orange, and then the raspberry. Because with this, you're picking up any of the previous ink that it might be touching. So starting with the lightest and working the darkest. 1, you're not going to muddy up your ink pads, and 2, it's just easier. So got that all done, and then it's this fun little multicolored stamp. And then, of course, to finish it off, I grabbed the little Totally stamp from the same set and inked it up with the Black Licorice Hybrid ink. And that finished off card number 1. So really fun rainbow stripes and some die cutting. And then once I was done with that card, it got me thinking about another way to do something similar So this time I grabbed the striped background stamp and a piece of white cardstock, and I used my anti-static tool on the cardstock. And then I'm going to ink up this stamp with Versamark ink, and making sure to ink it up really, really well. It does, again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to stamp that onto the cardstock. So I'm going to just grab the leftover piece of copy paper that I'd used for the other card and press that down really, really well. And then I'm going to emboss this with some clear embossing powder. So getting out my little coffee filter, and then I'm going to pour the embossing powder over this. And because it's a full sheet of cardstock, you got to be kind of careful with it so you're not rubbing anything off with your fingers. But once I've got it coated, I'm going to heat that with my heat tool and completely melt everything. So it takes a couple minutes. It's going to warp it a little bit, not too bad when you're using heavyweight cardstock. Again, this is the smooth heavyweight cardstock from MFT. So made sure I got this completely melted. If you're really particular, you could do it a second time and really get a good thick coating of the embossing powder, but I liked it like this. I liked that there was a few little spots here and there you'll see, but at the end, it just works. So I'm just doing emboss resist, so super simple, and doing it again in rainbow order. This time starting with my lightest colors. So I'm using lemon drop first and just applying it with a sponge dauber, and then I just took a Kleenex and wiped off right on that same area. So I'm wiping off all the ink that's resisting over the embossing so that it doesn't get picked up by the next sponge dauber. So I'm not gonna like mix up my colors. So now I'm going to do Orange Fizz, and same thing, get that applied, and then I'm going to use the Kleenex to wipe off any of the ink that's being resisted by the embossing. And yeah, in certain little spots, especially on the edges, there's like, it wasn't a completely smooth embossing, so the ink just kind of absorbed into the paper, but I like the look of it. It's kind of fun. So with the Razzleberry, again, it is such a strong color that you need more than the Kleenex. So I used the Kleenex at first, and then I actually just grabbed a baby wipe, and I use that to wipe off the embossing, and that really wipes off any of that extra ink. So you still have that nice white, well, clear, but it's white, obviously, embossing resist. And then I can go on and finish the rest of the stripes. So, of course, I did my grape jelly, and that just completely covered that little bit of raspberry ink that did get into that area. And wipe that off really well. And then I'm going to do my sour apple and then my blue raspberry. And then I've got my whole piece finished. So I decided I wanted to make this one into a birthday card. So I die cut a piece of the smooth white cardstock again, this time with one of the balloon stacks dynamics. And I'm going to sponge the blue raspberry ink onto this. I could have just die cut a piece of blue raspberry cardstock, but I like the dimension you kind of get from the sponging, even though the inks kind of smooth out after a while. I just kind of wanted the continuity with all the sponging going on with the backgrounds. So, and plus it's just kind of fun to do. So I sponged the balloon with the blue raspberry ink, and then I die cut another piece of white cardstock with one of the fishtail flags stacks dynamics. And I'm going to stamp the birthday stamp from the same Happy Everything set with black licorice hybrid ink just along the bottom there. And then I had another of the Happy die cuts from black licorice cardstock because I just went kind of crazy with all the die cutting, so I was able to use that on this card as well. And then just some MFT hemp cord that I start to tie in a knot, and then it's easier to do it this way, and then you kind of loop it around the little end of the balloon there and pull it closed, and then you just tie it again in a knot, and it holds on quite well. So trimmed off that, and then I'm going to adhere that to my card front with a little bit of foam tape. So just a little bit of dimension going on, plus it just adheres really well over the embossing. So press that down, and then decided to be a little free with the hemp cord and kind of have it kind of twist and twirl around a little bit. So I put foam tape on the back of the fishtail flag die cut, and then kind of let the hemp cord sort of do its thing, so it's coming out and around, and then I just kind of looped it around a little bit, and then pressed the fishtail flag die cut into place. And then when I positioned the Happy, there's two little parts there that are kind of hanging over, so I didn't want them to get squished down, so I just trimmed down a little bit of foam tape to cover the two ends there, and then just used my Tombow Monomulti for the rest of it so that it adheres really, really well, and just kind of finagled it around the little bit of hemp cord there. And then got that into place. And then of course I'm going to adhere all this to my white note card, which this time is a 4 1/4 by 11 inch piece of cardstock, which I scored at 5.5. So again, top folding card. I don't know, I like the look of top folding better. I don't know why, it's just a habit. I've been doing it for years now. So pop foam tape on that as well, just so it's popped up a little bit, just to give it a little extra something. And then for the inside of the card, I had sponged another balloon just to see how it would look. So I didn't want to waste that, so I thought I'd use that in the inside, and then stamp another sentiment from the Happy Everything set with the black licorice hybrid ink. So this is the kind of sentiment that I need quite often. I'm horrible with sending cards out on time. So stamp that. I'm going to adhere the balloon, and that's all there was to it. So as always, there will be a link directly below the video to my blog post that'll have all the pictures and links to the supplies used, as well as a link to the MFT blog post for today that's linking to all the other design team members, so you can check out their posts and see what they made. And all that info will be in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!